Chapter 21. The Immortal's Library. The formation of the faint, radiant orb in Li Wei's dantian, which he believed to be the beginnings of his golden core, filled him with a quiet triumph. The hidden valley, with its ancient tree and shimmering pool, seemed to hum with approval, its mystical energy amplifying his chi. Yet the scroll's cryptic passages hinted that core formation was only the foundation for greater challenges, requiring knowledge beyond its bamboo slats. A new section caught his eye, titled The Immortal's Library, describing a repository of ancient wisdom, where cultivators could uncover techniques to refine their cores and ascend further. "Seek the tomes of the ancients," it read, "for within their words lies the map to eternity." Li Wei, fueled by his recent progress in the valley's spiritual aura, interpreted this as a call to action, a quest for sacred texts to deepen his cultivation. The idea of a library filled with immortal secrets set Li Wei's imagination ablaze. In his old life in Beijing, he'd been a voracious reader of wuxia and cultivation novels, where hidden archives held scrolls of forbidden techniques or maps to mystical realms. The scroll didn't specify where this immortal's library might be, but Li Wei, ever the optimist, believed it could be a real place. A forgotten shrine or archive near Mount Tai, perhaps guarded by the same spiritual forces that had led him to the valley. His resources were scarce, his body weakened by hunger, his funds nearly depleted, but his resolve was ironclad. If the heavens had guided him this far, they would lead him to the library. Li Wei spent the morning preparing, tending to Azure Dragon, his scruffy spirit beast, with a handful of foraged berries and a pat on the head. The dog's amber eyes followed him as he packed his tattered backpack with the scroll, jade slip, and notebook, its pages now filled with fervent entries about chi, tribulations, and visions. He left the valley, promising to return, and hiked down Mount Tai to the city of Tai'an, where rumors of historical sites and hidden relics abounded. The scroll's mention of ancient tomes suggested a place of cultural significance, and Li Wei's mind turned to the Dai Temple, a sprawling complex at the mountain's base, known for its historical artifacts and ancient inscriptions. If an immortal's library existed, it might be hidden there, disguised as a mundane archive. Tai'an buzzed with tourists, their chatter a jarring contrast to the valley's serenity. Li Wei, with his wild hair and tattered clothes, drew curious glances as he navigated the crowded streets to the Dai Temple. The temple's red walls and ornate roofs loomed grandly, its courtyards filled with stone steles and bronze statues. Li Wei paid the modest entry fee with his last few yuan, slipping past tour groups to explore the quieter corners. The scroll had described the library as veiled from mortal eyes, so he searched for hidden passages, behind altars, under statues, anywhere that might conceal a secret entrance. His heart raced with each shadowed alcove, but he found only dusty relics and locked doors. As dusk fell, Li Wei's desperation grew. The temple was closing, and he hadn't found anything resembling a library. Determined not to leave empty-handed, he lingered near a side hall filled with ancient manuscripts, their faded calligraphy displayed behind glass. The hall was guarded by a lone security officer, a bored-looking man scrolling on his phone. Li Wei's pulse quickened. This was his chance. The scroll had spoken of claiming wisdom through courage, and he interpreted this as a test. If the Immortal's library was hidden, he would have to take a risk to find it. When the guard stepped away for a break, Li Wei acted. He slipped behind a display case, his hands trembling as he pried open a glass panel. The manuscripts inside were brittle, their pages yellowed with age, but one caught his eye. A thin booklet bound in faded silk, its cover etched with symbols resembling those on his scroll. He tucked it into his jacket, his heart pounding with guilt and exhilaration. As he turned to leave, the guard returned, spotting him instantly. "Hey! What are you doing?" the man shouted, lunging forward. Li Wei bolted, clutching the booklet as he sprinted through the temple's courtyards. Tourists gasped, and the guard's shouts echoed behind him. He darted into an alley, weaving through Tai'an's narrow streets until he lost his pursuer in the evening crowds. Panting, he hid in a shadowed doorway, the stolen manuscript heavy in his hands. Guilt gnawed at him. Stealing was wrong, but the scroll justified it. The Tao demands sacrifice for wisdom. He opened the booklet, its pages filled with cryptic diagrams of qi flow and herbal recipes, eerily similar to his scroll. Was this a piece of the Immortal's library? Back in the valley, under the ancient tree's glowing blossoms, Li Wei studied his prize. The booklet's text was dense, mentioning elixir refinement and core stabilization, fueling his belief that it was a sacred text. He meditated with it, pressing it alongside the jade slip, and felt the warmth in his Dantian pulse stronger, as if the booklet's knowledge was merging with his ki. He scribbled in his notebook, Immortal's library found. Tomi acquired. Wisdom flows, core strengthens. He shared the triumph with the Order of the Jade Dawn, omitting the theft, and Zhang Wei and Liu Mei marveled at his find, urging him to decode its secrets. As the valley's mist curled around him, Li Wei sat by his altar, azure dragon snoring softly nearby. The stolen booklet, real or not, was a victory, a step toward refining his golden core. The scroll promised greater wisdom ahead, but also greater risks. Li Wei, with his sect's support and his unyielding faith, was ready to face them. The weight of his actions a small price for the path to immortality. Chapter 22. Forbidden Love. The acquisition of the stolen manuscript from the Dai Temple had ignited a new spark in Li Wei's cultivation, its cryptic diagrams and herbal recipes reinforcing his belief that he was uncovering the secrets of the Immortal's library. The hidden valley, with its ancient tree and shimmering pool, pulsed with an energy that seemed to validate his path, the warmth in his Dantian growing denser with each meditation. Azure Dragon, his scruffy spirit beast, remained a loyal companion, curling up beside the stone altar as Li Wei pored over the scroll and booklet, seeking the next step toward immortality. But a new passage in the scroll stirred an unexpected longing. The heart, bound by mortal ties, may find harmony in love, yet beware. Passion can sway the cultivator from the Tao. In the cultivation novels Li Wei had devoured in his Beijing days, love was often a double-edged sword, a source of strength or a fatal distraction. The scroll's words were ambiguous, describing a union of hearts that could balance qi through shared emotion, but warning of entanglements that bind the spirit to the mortal realm. Li Wei, alone in the valley save for Azure Dragon, had no one to share such a bond with, but the passage awakened a buried yearning. His life on Mount Tai had been solitary, his only connections the distant voices of the Order of the Jade Dawn. The idea of love, even a fleeting one, tugged at his heart, threatening to disrupt the focus he'd fought so hard to maintain. One evening, as he meditated under the ancient tree, its glowing blossoms casting a soft light, Li Wei's thoughts drifted to a fantasy. He imagined a fairy maiden, a figure from cultivation lore, ethereal, radiant with qi, her presence harmonizing with his own. Inspired, he pulled out his notebook, not to record qi techniques, but to pour his longing into poetry. Her eyes like stars, her breath the mist, he wrote, the words flowing as if guided by the valley's whispers. Together we ascend, our qi entwined. The act was indulgent, a departure from his disciplined practice, but it felt necessary, a release for emotions he'd suppressed since leaving Beijing. The next day, Li Wei ventured to the village at the foot of Mount Tai to charge his phone and connect with the order. Old Chen, the gruff farmer, greeted him with a knowing smirk, handing over a bowl of rice. "You look lovesick, boy," Chen teased, noticing Li Wei's distracted air. Flustered, Li Wei brushed it off, but as he left the tea house, a young woman approached, a villager named Mei Ling, who helped Chen with deliveries. She'd seen Li Wei before, his wild appearance and fervent talk of cultivation a curiosity in the village. "You dropped this," she said, holding out a crumpled page that had fallen from his notebook. One of his poems, its romantic verses stark against the dirt-streaked paper. Li Wei's face burned as Mei Ling's eyes scanned the page, a shy smile playing on her lips. "This is beautiful," she said, her voice soft. "Is it for someone special?" Li Wei stammered, unsure how to explain that his fairy maiden was a figment of his imagination, a muse born of the scroll's cryptic words. Mei Ling, mistaking his hesitation for shyness, handed the poem back with a gentle laugh. "Keep writing. Maybe she'll find you." She walked away, leaving Li Wei clutching the page, his heart racing with a mix of embarrassment and intrigue. Back in the valley, Li Wei couldn't shake Mei Ling's smile. She was no cultivator, just a village girl with kind eyes and calloused hands from farm work, but her brief interaction had stirred something in him. Was this the union of hearts the scroll described, or the dangerous entanglement it warned against? He tried to refocus, meditating with the jade slip and scroll, but his thoughts kept drifting to Mei Ling, her face blending with his imagined fairy maiden. In a moment of reckless inspiration, he wrote more poems, leaving them by the altar as offerings to the valley's spirits, hoping they might guide his heart. During the next video call with the Order of the Jade Dawn, Li Wei hesitated to mention Mei Ling, fearing Zhang Wei's enthusiasm or Liu Mei's caution would complicate his feelings. Instead, he shared the scroll's passage on love, framing it as a theoretical challenge. Zhang Wei, ever the romantic, suggested that a dual cultivation of the heart could amplify qi, while Liu Mei warned of distractions. The Tao is solitary. Love can anchor you to the mortal world. Li Wei nodded, his mind torn. He scribbled in his notebook. Forbidden love stirs. Fairy maiden imagined, but mortal girl appears. Qi wavers, yet heart seeks harmony. Under the valley's starry sky, Li Wei sat by the pool, azure dragon snoring softly nearby. The scroll's warnings echoed, but so did its promise of balance through love. Mei Ling was no fairy maiden, but her kindness had touched him, a reminder of the human connections he'd abandoned. He resolved to focus on his cultivation, to channel this longing into his qi, but a part of him hoped to see her again. The ancient tree's blossoms glowed, their whispers mingling with his poems, as if the valley itself was weighing his heart. The path to immortality was clear, but for the first time, Li Wei wondered if it could include another soul, mortal or not. Chapter 23. Demonic Possession. The stirring of forbidden love, sparked by Mei Ling's fleeting kindness and Li Wei's poetic musings, had unsettled his focus, but the hidden valley's mystical aura kept him anchored to his cultivation. The warmth in his dantian, now a dense pulse he attributed to his nascent golden core, reassured him that he was still on the path to immortality. Azure Dragon, his scruffy spirit beast, remained a steadfast companion, dozing by the stone altar as Li Wei pored over the scroll under the glow of the ancient tree's blossoms. Yet the scroll's next passage introduced a chilling new trial. The demonic possession, where shadows of the heart invade the spirit. Banish them with unyielding will, lest the Tao be lost. In the cultivation novels Li Wei had devoured in his Beijing days, demonic possession was a terrifying ordeal, often involving malevolent spirits or inner demons that threatened to consume a cultivator's soul. The scroll's description was less fantastical, but no less ominous. The mind, weakened by desire or doubt, opens a gate to chaos. The cultivator must confront the shadow within. Li Wei's recent turmoil over Mei Ling, coupled with lingering doubts from Wang Hao's betrayal and his own physical frailties, made him fear he was vulnerable. The valley, with its whispers and vibrant qi, felt like the perfect place to face such a trial. But the prospect sent a shiver down his spine. One night, as a cold wind swept through the valley, Li Wei prepared for the ordeal. He reinforced his altar with fresh stones, placing the scroll, jade slip, and a single wilted spirit root herb at its center, their faint glow a ward against the darkness. Azure Dragon sensed his tension, whining softly and pressing against his leg. The scroll instructed a ritual to cleanse the spirit, fasting, chanting, and a meditative trance to confront the shadow within. Li Wei, still weakened from his alchemical mishap and sparse diet, hesitated but steeled himself. The memory of his inner demon, the sneering doppelganger from his earlier dream, loomed large, but he was determined to face this new challenge. Under a moonless sky, Li Wei began, sitting cross-legged by the altar, the valley's mist swirling around him like a living shroud. He fasted, sipping only the pool's crystal water, and chanted the scroll's incantations, the rhythmic tones blending with the tree's whispers. His goal was to enter a trance, to open the gate and confront the shadow within. Hours passed, his body trembling from hunger and cold, but he focused on his dantian, visualizing his qi as a radiant shield. The warmth pulsed, steady at first, but as exhaustion set in, his mind began to wander. Images of Mei Ling's smile mingling with Wang Hao's mocking laughter and his mother's worried voice. Sleep overtook him, and he slipped into a dream that felt too real to be mere imagination. He stood in the valley, but it was warped. The pool black as ink. The ancient tree twisted into a skeletal form, its blossoms dripping blood. A figure emerged from the mist, its face a shifting amalgam of everyone he'd failed. His boss, sneering at his incompetence. Wang Hao, laughing at his delusions. Mei Ling, her eyes cold with rejection. "You're nothing," the figure hissed, its voice a chorus of his deepest fears. "Your qi is a lie, your scroll a fraud. You'll die alone in this valley." Li Wei's heart pounded, his qi flickering like a candle in a storm. This was the demonic possession, he realized, the shadow of his doubts, given form to test his resolve. The scroll had warned that only a strong will could banish it. He clutched the jade slip, its faint warmth grounding him, and chanted louder, his voice hoarse but defiant. "I am a cultivator," he declared, visualizing his golden core as a blazing star. "You have no power over me!" The figure lunged, its claws reaching for his heart, but Li Wei rolled across the ground as if fighting a physical foe, his chants echoing in the dreamscape. In the real world, Azure Dragon barked, startled by Li Wei's thrashing. The movement snapped him awake, sprawled in the dirt, his body slick with sweat. The valley was unchanged, the pool shimmering, the tree's blossoms glowing softly. His heart raced, but the warmth in his dantian pulsed stronger, as if the battle had refined it. Had he banished the demon, or had it been just a nightmare? The scroll promised that such trials strengthened the spirit, and Li Wei chose to believe he'd triumphed. He scribbled in his notebook, hands shaking. Demonic possession faced. Shadow banished through will. Core shines brighter. During the next video call with the Order of the Jade Dawn, Li Wei shared the ordeal, describing the warped valley and the figure's taunts. Zhang Wei, wide-eyed, saw it as proof of Li Wei's progress, while Liu Mei, her voice gentle, urged him to rest and meditate on clarity. "The mind is your battlefield," she said. "Guard it well." Li Wei nodded, grateful for their support, though he kept Mei Ling's role in his vision private, fearing their judgment. As dawn broke over the valley, Li Wei sat by the altar, Azure Dragon at his side, the scroll open before him. The whispers of the tree seemed to congratulate him, their murmurs a soft encouragement. The demonic possession, real or imagined, had tested his resolve, and he had emerged stronger. The scroll promised greater trials, but with his sect's faith and the valley's energy, Li Wei felt ready to face them, his golden core a beacon guiding him toward the heavens. Chapter 24. The Tournament. The triumph over the demonic possession, whether a true spiritual battle or a vivid nightmare, had left Li Wei with a renewed sense of conviction. The warmth in his dantian, pulsing like a nascent golden core, felt denser, as if the hidden valley's mystical energy had fused with his spirit. Azure Dragon, his loyal spirit beast, dozed by the stone altar, a quiet anchor amidst the swirling mists and glowing blossoms of the ancient tree. The scroll, its bamboo slats worn but sacred, continued to guide him, its latest passage urging him to test his cultivation against others. In the arena of the righteous, the cultivator proves their qi through contest. Li Wei, inspired by tales of martial tournaments and cultivation novels, saw this as a call to action, a chance to demonstrate his progress and silence the doubts that lingered from Wang Hao's betrayal. Living in isolation on Mount Tai, Li Wei had no physical arena to compete in, but the digital world offered a solution. The True Path Seekers Forum, where he'd found the Order of the Jade Dawn, buzzed with activity, including announcements of an online martial arts contest hosted by a subgroup called Iron Spirit Practitioners. The contest invited participants to submit videos of their techniques, martial forms, qi demonstrations, or spiritual practices, for judging by a panel of self-proclaimed experts. Prizes were modest, mostly bragging rights and herbal supplements, but for Li Wei, it was a chance to prove his cultivation to the world, or at least to a niche corner of the internet. He spent days preparing in the valley, his body still weak from fasting and alchemical mishaps, but fueled by determination. The scroll's techniques, celestial crane posture, qi projection, and the sword forms he'd imagined during his clan warfare, became his focus. He practiced with the star blade, his sharpened branch, moving through the valley with fluid strikes, visualizing chi flowing from his dantian to his limbs. Azure Dragon watched, occasionally barking as if cheering, though more likely hoping for a stray berry. Li Wei filmed his practice with his battered phone propped against a rock, capturing himself chanting and swinging the star blade under the ancient tree's glowing canopy. The valley's mist added a mystical flair, making his movements appear otherworldly, even if his footing was shaky. Editing the video was a challenge. Li Wei had no laptop, only his phone, and the village's spotty Wi-Fi at Old Chen's tea house. Sitting at a wobbly table, nursing a cup of cheap tea, he stitched together clips of his best forms, overlaying them with a voiceover reciting the scroll's incantations. He titled the video Jade Dawn Ascendant, Chi Manifestation, hoping to honor his sect while showcasing his progress. The final product was grainy, his chants slightly off-key, but the glowing blossoms and swirling mist gave it an ethereal quality. He submitted it to the contest, heart-pounding with anticipation, and shared the link with Zhang Wei and Liu Mei, who praised his effort, though Liu Mei gently suggested he polish the execution. Days later, the contest results were posted. Li Wei, back in the valley with Azure Dragon at his side, checked the form on his phone using a rare moment of signal. His video had garnered attention, but not the kind he'd hoped. The judges, a mix of martial artists and self-styled mystics, dismissed it as theatrical nonsense, with one commenting, "Nice cosplay, but this isn't a fantasy convention." The forum erupted with mocking replies, users comparing his star blade to a wizard's wand and his chants to karaoke gone wrong. Some speculated he was a troll, others pitied his delusion. The order's leaked secrets, thanks to Wang Hao, were referenced, adding fuel to the ridicule. Li Wei's face burned with humiliation, the hiker's laughter and Wang Hao's betrayal echoing in the comments. He wanted to scream, to defend his cultivation, but the scroll's words held him back. The righteous face scorn, yet their chi remains unbowed. He saw the mockery as another tribulation, a test of his resolve. In a defiant act, he posted a response claiming the judges were blinded by mortal limits and that his chi was real, proven by his trials. The reply only sparked more laughter, but Zhang Wei and Liu Mei rallied in the group chat, urging him to ignore the ignorant masses. Zhang Wei suggested sabotage, hinting that rival forum members might be jealous, while Liu Mei encouraged him to focus on inner strength. That night, in the valley's serene embrace, Li Wei meditated by the altar, the jade slip in his hands, Azure Dragon snoring softly. The scroll and stolen booklet lay open, their words a balm against the forum's scorn. He scribbled in his notebook, "Tournament faced. Mortal judges blind to Tao. Chi proven through perseverance." The warmth in his dantian pulsed, undeterred by the ridicule, and the valley's whispers seemed to affirm his path. The contest was a failure in the eyes of the world, but Li Wei saw it as a victory of spirit. With the Order's support and the scroll's guidance, he would rise above the mockery, his golden core a beacon toward immortality. Chapter 25. Nascent Soul Awakening. The sting of the online tournament's ridicule lingered, but Li Wei refused to let it dim his resolve. The hidden valley, with its shimmering pool, ancient tree, and ever-present mist, remained his sanctuary, its mystical energy amplifying the warmth in his dantian, a warmth he believed was his nascent golden core. Azure Dragon, his scruffy spirit beast, lay curled by the stone altar, a quiet reminder of his connection to the living world. The scroll, its bamboo slats worn from constant handling, had guided him through trials of lightning, betrayal, and imagined warfare, each one forging his spirit closer to immortality. Now, its next passage unveiled a monumental challenge. Nascent Soul Awakening, where the cultivator's spirit births a divine self, unbound by mortal flesh. In the cultivation novels Li Wei had read in his Beijing days, the nascent soul was a legendary milestone, a spiritual entity formed within the cultivator, a miniature version of their soul that could act independently, wielding immense power. The scroll's description was more poetic but equally daunting. From the golden core, the soul takes flight, a spark of divinity, to pierce the heavens. Focus the mind, refine the key, and face the void within. It warned of intense mental strain and visions that could shatter the unprepared. Li Wei, emboldened by his survival of demonic possession and the lightning tribulation, felt ready to confront this trial, even as his weakened body protested from months of hunger and exertion. He prepared with reverence, treating the valley as a sacred crucible. The ancient tree's glowing blossoms seemed to pulse in encouragement, their light reflecting off the pool's crystal surface. Li Wei fasted for a day, sipping only the valley's water, which he believed was infused with spiritual essence. He arranged his altar with care, placing the scroll, jade slip, and stolen booklet at its center, surrounded by the last of his wilted, spirit root herbs. Azure Dragon watched, head tilted, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. The scroll instructed a deep, meditative trance to enter the void and birth the soul. And Li Wei, clutching the jade slip, settled beneath the tree, ready to begin. As night fell, the valley cloaked in starlight, Li Wei closed his eyes and focused on his dantian. The warmth of his golden core pulsed steadily, a radiant orb in his mind's eye. He chanted the scroll's incantations, their rhythmic tones blending with the valley's whispers, and visualized his ki condensing further, shaping a spark of his soul. Hours passed, his body growing numb, his mind sinking deeper into a trance. The warmth in his core intensified, almost painful, as if his spirit was straining to break free. The scroll had warned of facing the void, and Li Wei felt it. A vast, empty darkness behind his closed eyes, pulling him in. In the trance, the valley vanished, replaced by a formless expanse where light and shadow swirled. A figure appeared, not the mocking demon of his earlier trial, but a smaller, radiant version of himself, glowing with golden light. Its eyes, his own, yet infinite, stared back, and a voice echoed in his mind, "Are you worthy of eternity?" Fear gripped him, but Li Wei clung to his chi, willing the spark in his dantian to grow. The figure extended a hand and he reached for it, their touch igniting a burst of heat that surged through his meridians. For a moment, he felt weightless, as if his soul had truly awakened, ready to soar beyond his body. But the strain was too much. His vision fractured, the radiant figure dissolving into sparks, and a wave of dizziness pulled him from the trance. He awoke with a gasp, sprawled by the altar, his body trembling and soaked with sweat. Azure Dragon whined, nudging his hand as if urging him to rise. The warmth in his dantian pulsed erratically, stronger than before but unstable, like a flame caught in a gust. Had he birthed a nascent soul, or was it another delusion born of exhaustion? The scroll promised visions, but also clarity, and Li Wei felt a strange lucidity despite his physical weakness. He grabbed his notebook, scribbling with shaking hands. Nascent soul awakening attempted. Divine self seen. Chi surged. Body faltered, but spirit rises. The valley's mist curled around him, the tree's blossoms glowing brighter as if affirming his progress. He wasn't sure if the radiant figure was real or a product of his yearning, but the strengthened ki in his core felt undeniable. He chose to believe he'd taken a step toward immortality, even if the soul remained nascent, a seed yet to bloom. During the next video call with the Order of the Jade Dawn, Li Wei shared his experience, describing the golden figure and the void with fervent excitement. Zhang Wei, eyes wide, declared it a true awakening, urging him to stabilize the soul with alchemy. Liu Mei, her voice soft but firm, cautioned him to rest. The soul is fragile at birth. Nurture it slowly. Li Wei nodded, grateful for their support, though he hid the extent of his disorientation. The valley, with its whispers and radiant energy, was his crucible, and Azure Dragon, his anchor. As dawn broke, Li Wei meditated by the pool, the jade slip warm in his hands, the scroll open before him. The nascent soul, real or imagined, was a milestone, a spark of divinity within him. The scroll promised greater trials, but Li Wei felt ready, his spirit buoyed by the valley's embrace and his sect's faith. With Azure Dragon snoring softly and the ancient tree's blossoms glowing, he chanted softly, determined to nurture his nascent soul toward the heavens.